Hello everyone, my name is the SeaTactics, and today we are here to review the first episode of Angolmois. That is an interesting name for an anime, but that is the name of it. Of course, there's a subtitle to it, but I don't remember what it is. But we're here to talk about episode 1. Before we do so, I want to say that I'm covering more anime this season. I know what you're saying, SeaTactics, let's get to the video, but this is important. I'm covering Banana Fish this season, also covering Attack on Titan Season 3. I will also, throughout this season, make videos on shows that I like or think do something exceptional or something that stand out. So, if you like that kind of coverage, then please subscribe to my channel. I also have a gaming channel where I have a Final Fantasy VII playthrough right now, and a Fate Stay Night visual novel Fate Route playthrough. So go over there, subscribe to that if you haven't already. And on this channel, I will have weekly podcasts for the ReZero web novel. I will also have weekly reviews. Sometimes they'll be bi-weekly, sometimes I'll skip a week, but usually there's always something in its place. And I'll cover the big news that happens, and like I'll have a video coming out pretty soon on the new SAO Alicization, aka SAO Season 3 trailer, and I'll have a review of Gun Gale Online pretty much in the same week that video goes up, which is next week. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell, ring the bell, because it lets YouTube know, hey, you want all the videos that I'm uploading. And I'm just saying, I have some pretty good content, so I would definitely appreciate if you could at least see it in your sub boxes, because, work hard on a lot of these videos. So with that being said, thank you all for sitting through that little bit of diatribe right there. Let's get into episode 1 of Angolmois. Episode 1 of Angolmois begins on the high seas with a bunch of captured soldiers that were being transported, previously being exiled. Eventually they break loose and they take over the boat, heading to land. Turns out they're heading to Tsushima, the edge of Japan. They are then met by the princess of that area and guided to land. Later that night, the princess informs them that they are to fight the Mongols who are heading to Tsushima as they speak. And if they do not, they will be executed on the spot. And an important note, though, is that the princess technically saved these prisoners, stopping the order for their execution. One of them then tries to attack the princess, but the warriors of Tsushima kill the man in his tracks. Okay, firstly, these scenes were really fast-paced. The pacing was just one after the other. But since this series is 13 episodes instead of 24, I felt like it's something they likely had to do. Now, I'm not familiar with the manga for this anime. I heard it's got pretty decent scores from a lot of people who've read it, or I guess who have been able to read it. But I really would have loved this series to be 24 episodes. I feel like with its historical setting, we got last season, we got Golden Kamuy. That had a historic setting, and I love these historical setting animes. And it seems that there's not a lot of faith put into these historical setting animes anymore. Far Cry are the days of Rurouni Kenshin. That being said, the author did some terrible things. I'm just talking about the art on its own. Rurouni Kenshin had a lot of support behind it. God, there's so much more I'm forgetting the names of, but there used to be back in the day a lot of historical anime that were really popular, and now these days Basilisk is another one that was a masterpiece that was really supported back when it came out and got 26 or 24 episodes. This anime has 13, and I immediately felt the effects of it having 13 episodes in the first couple scenes. So I would have loved, at least maybe before they came out, they're like, alright, this is 13 episodes, but there's going to be a second core that's coming out later in the year, and we're going to take a break to make that second core happen. But we don't even have a confirmation of that. It's literally just 13 episodes, and I wish this one had so much more episodes, because it just would have made this episode so much better than it was, right? Some other things that I just felt, why would you do this? And that's, of course, you've noticed already, but the filter, it's really annoying. Please remove it. And I don't think they're going to remove it for the broadcast, but I would not be surprised if they allow you to remove the filter, or they remove it altogether in a Blu-ray release down the road. I would much appreciate that. People with slower internet connections would probably really appreciate that. I am lucky enough to have a pretty decently sized TV with a decent resolution. It may have lost some of its color over the years. It's pretty old, but I'm lucky enough to have that. Some people are not lucky enough. They have to watch it on a small computer screen, which really sucks. And I watched some of this on a computer screen, and it really sucked. So, I don't know why they did this. I think they did this because they thought, oh, it will make our show look distinct and unique to the other offerings out this summer. But you look at what's coming out this summer. This is probably one of the most standout anime by default because it's so different. It is a historical setting. It involves Tsushima, a great place full of a lot of history that has this mystique around it. And it has these great character designs that you see from the cover. The princess looks amazing. The main character guy looks amazing. The prisoners, they all have great designs that are reminiscent of 90s anime and of that era. And it looks great. It's unique already. Why do you need to put that filter on it to make it look more unique? Is it to cover up the bad CGI? Because if so, that's a poor excuse. Because the CGI, while it's bad, to many people they can work with bad CGI if the show's good. We saw that with Planet With. Planet With's first episode, awful CGI. Worse than the CGI than what we saw in Golden Kamuy by far, and worse than the CGI we saw in this episode, which we didn't even see much of what the CGI had to offer in this episode. So we don't even know, it may look bad, but it may technically be smooth and proficient. So we don't know that much even about the CGI yet, and if I don't know why they just decided to use this filter. It doesn't make the show look more gritty. Maybe it's to cover up the bad background art. I don't know what it is, but this filter doesn't do anything for me. It's not really that great. I like the twist on in this episode where the princess was like, "You're gonna have to fight for us. If you don't, we're gonna kill you anyway. So die for Tsushima either way." I thought that was a nice little twist on the character because you thought, oh, she's a beautiful girl, she's a princess, she's kind-hearted. Nope. No, she is not. She may be a little kind-hearted. We learn later in the episode. But when it comes to strangers, especially prisoners, doesn't really care. I like the idea of this show, though, in general, like the prisoners fighting against their will. Although later in the episode, they kind of, they don't end up not fighting against their will. But I like that. It's an interesting pickle the characters have themselves in. Adds a little bit of just something interesting to how the story starts out. I just like that idea. And the setting of Tsushima is rather nice as well. It's super refreshing to have a setting like Tsushima. I know there's that, that Sony game, Ghosts of Tsushima. I can't remember, Sucker Punch. Yeah, Sucker Punch is developing that. Saw that trailer at E3, is really good. Probably one of the best things Sony has coming out in years. And now we got this anime, which has another setting in Tsushima, so I hope we get more of what Tsushima, what comes with the setting in Tsushima. I hope we get more of what naturally comes along with that. That would be really cool. More samurai stuff, more sword fighting, more history. That's what I really want from this, and I think, well, we'll get to later on who this princess girl is, but I think she's going to be one of the most interesting characters, and can't wait to see more of that. And the action, holy crap, Guys, the action in this first scene was so awesome, super impactful and violent. I loved everything I saw from it, which makes me question why'd you put the filter over it, because it made it hard to see shit. So I don't know what's going on with that, but once again, animation, pretty damn good in terms of its action. What it does with that. It just looks really good, really stylized, really unique. And that's the word I'd use to describe this episode, and really this series so far is unique. And I'm really, I'm really glad that this anime is turning out to be good, because I was super worried about it when I first saw it. Then after that, we see the princess being escorted to her house by Otaki, and she falls over when she is caught by her. Apparently, she doesn't like death or this idea of sending the prisoners toward the likely die. But they have pretty much no other option, they have to do so. And the first thing about this scene, besides its inconsistencies with some of the writing, Otaki seems to be in the motherly position for the princess to confide in. There is a great deal of trust there, I sense, and I really like Otaki. I'm not sure if Otaki is actually her mother or not. They look rather similar in their build and in their hairstyles and facial features, but I don't know for a fact. We may find out later. Of course, she dies later in this episode. But I really like the character of Otaki. I wish we would have saw her more. We'll talk more about that later. This scene, mixed reactions. The writing where she was like, I don't like to see death. Like, I can get that. But at the same time, you're sending these prisoners to die, so it's a rather hypocritical. Then again, I still think the princess didn't exactly hate sending these soldiers into war. But at the same time, I also don't think that's entirely an act. But at the same time, she has no reason to trust these prisoners. They're prisoners for a reason. They were exiled from Japan to the edge of Tsushima for a reason. There's a reason all of that happened. Hopefully we find out later exactly the reason why they were exiled and likely to be forgiven or to be accepted by the people of Tsushima, whatever may happen. Or they may all die. It's the Mongols. They're a bunch of savage people. Yeah, let's move on. Now, focusing back on the prisoners who were exiled, we get to see just how long ago this takes place, as we see a horizontal map of Japan. This scene is basically to explain why the Mongols come this way to Tsushima every time, and it's basically because for the Mongols, it's always their first stop, since it's one of the first places they travel to across the sea, because it's the closest. It's, stopping at the nearest gas station, so to speak. Not really much in the scene, besides the fact that they showed the horizontal map, and that map always, just the maps of Japan in general have always fascinated me. It really, it's kind of like the same thing of like, we didn't know a lot about the human anatomy back in the day. Like, you see like pictures of the human anatomy, what doctors knew about the human body back in the day and what we know about the human body now. It's the same kind of thing. Seeing old maps and now looking at new ones, especially the vertical style maps we see now that Japan uses for them. I thought that was, I don't know, it's just super fascinating map stuff like that. I really like that. It shows that I guess back then the world was a lot bigger, and now it's a lot smaller. Just a cool little touch that I really liked. Cool little touch of history. The Mongols then invade Tsushima. Apparently they don't have a really good wall. That's a reference to South Park, a very bad joke. We also see the princess bathe, which was nice. A nice little scene of that. If you're into fan service, there you go. You can see some side boob. Then as she's lying down and reflecting on the day, Otaki is attacked and tells the princess to run as she falls through the door. Otaki is then killed pretty much right in front of her, while she's on top of the princess. And the princess is, of course, captured by the Mongols. Once again, the pacing here is very questionable. I would have loved to see more of Otaki and to spend more time with her, and also the princess as well, because right now they seem to have come out on the poor side of characterizations for this episode because of the pacing. I felt like this episode could have been an episode and a half, and then you could have filled the rest up with the second episode with some more stuff of what would be in the second episode for the series, likely. But what we got here felt really rushed, felt like they killed Otaki pretty early on to develop the princess's character a little bit faster, make her realize in just the first episode war is pretty bad, and that she did probably a bad thing, and now she's kind of regretting it a little bit, and she's feeling down, and now she's like learning through hardship and stuff like that. All that's in one episode. I would have much rather have that spread out 2 episodes. It would have felt a little bit more natural, but I'm complaining, but at the same time I'm not exactly complaining because I still enjoyed it. It's just really questionable as to why they did the things they did here. And I guess at the same time, I know the answer to that question. It's just a 13 episode anime. What else could you do? I also just, another little side note about the history stuff is I always loved how the Mongols seem so vicious in history, especially when compared to, Japanese, and how feared they were, how unlawful these Mongols were in history. It's kind of like the generic, American action films having the villains be Russians all the time. The Mongols are Japan's Russians, I guess is the way to put that. Either way, pretty interesting. I like the Mongols being the villain in this. Mongols are just an interesting bunch to read up about. The prisoners then see the Mongols have invaded, and they break out and decide to help save Tsushima and the princess from the Mongols. They then engage the Mongols, who have the princess, and here we see our MC guy use the Gike style, which is Gikaro Yoshitsune, I want to say? I don't remember. Which they have only heard about rumors. It turns out that the last guy from the Mongols group that hasn't been killed also knows the Gike style as well, but the Mongol escapes to a ship as he jumps like 100 yards to a ship. The Mongol guy jumping like 100 yards was ridiculous and stupid. The whole series was grounded up to that point, and then suddenly you have him jump that far. Completely ridiculous. Dumb. Stupid. I thought that was just dumb. I don't know if that's in the manga or not, but if it is, well, then again, I don't know how this series will go. I don't know if they'll do something more of like a cartoonish, but a style. But then this first episode, up until then, it really did seem like this was going for a grounded historical feel. And if they're doing a grounded historical feel as well with the wacky cartoon stuff when need be, well, that's just lazy writing. And this was lazy writing to me. First things first, though, I like how the tall guy was like, "You look like a dog of war," and the MC guy was like, "Well, you do too." I thought that was a nice piece of dialogue because it's what I was thinking when he said that. And I was like, wait, why are you... Isn't that a little hypocritical to be saying that to him when you look like a mongrel as well? Now I turn into Gilgamesh, I guess. Everything's fate. I figured this out. Everything is fate. The princess's servant running to save her looked really janky. It was the samurai guy. He was like, "Princess!" and he started running, and it just did not look that good. The animation for the fighting in this scene, freaking awesome. So impactful. It looked great. Oh my god, the fighting in this anime is so good. I compare it on the level of something... What do I compare this to? The first thing that comes to mind, oddly, is Killing Bites, because Killing Bites had some really good fighting animation in its first episode. But I would say it's way better than Killing Bites overall in just the first episode. Yeah, but good animation, good action in this first episode. Really great. Really impressed by what I saw in this one.
おたき、すまない。さぞ無念であったろう。皆、 この島で生まれ育ち、幼少より見知った顔ばかり。
After the battle, the princess sits down and looks at all the people she's lost in that night. And the princess basically curses war and talks about why she hates it so much. The death of Otaki and her servants, have her feeling down and stuff like that. And the MC guy comes in. He tells her, this isn't war. War requires much more, and that she is simply a child who doesn't truly understand anything yet about what just happened or what is happening. But also says they likely don't regret dying for the princess, and that their lives and their deaths were not wasted or for nothing. Then she tells them that he is going to fight for Tsushima so that no more deaths like this happen, and that he will fight, and that he will help her fight as well. She also says that there will be a reward waiting for him later on. Don't know what that reward will be. Likely, I assume a bunch of armor and stuff. I'm actually, there's some theories on that, I guess you could have. The other prisoner guy then makes a joke out of this and basically tells him that he is getting a little soft because he's taking rewards from a little girl. We then see our first glimpse of Kano, a female warrior who is the princess's servant. She comes by horse and tells the princess that she is supposed to be at the capital and that 900 Mongolian warships are making their way to Tsushima as they speak. First things first, I think it was pretty hypocritical of her to curse war, but to force the prisoners to partake in it. Literally telling them to, and I quote, "Die for Tsushima." I don't know if that's bad writing or not. It seems to be a little bit of inconsistent character writing, but at the same time, maybe that's what this character is. Maybe that's what we're supposed to take from this, is that she's a young girl. She doesn't know what really is going on here. She doesn't quite understand. She's always used to maybe getting her way, but at the same time, she didn't seem like that in places. Once again, the pacing of this episode does not help the characters whatsoever in some of the dialogue they speak. Also, is the little girl, the princess, and the same people? So the MC guy has a little bit of flashbacks of a woman with a little girl, and they had it two times. One when he's like reflecting on why there's so much war all the time when he's in Tsushima's prison cell, and the other time at this moment where he thinks back to it and she says something and it reminds him of that girl, and it like shows a flashback image of that little girl earlier when they were in the cell. So I don't know, the pacing once again had me confused at times, and some things just weren't clear in this episode, and this was one of them. Is this girl the MC's daughter? I don't know. If it is, wow, that's really confusing, because apparently she's the daughter of what's his face? God, I can't remember his name. The person, the King of Tsushima or whatever. Kano seems to be a very cool character. Can't wait to get to see more from her, and I wonder if the princess will fight in battle. Hope she does. They alluded to it, that he will, that the MC guy will help the princess fight. Another thing about that in general was I got really romancy vibes, but at the same time, there's those flashbacks, so is it really his daughter? I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. There could obviously be a romance. I wouldn't rule out a romance in this. I'm totally fine with romances in historical settings, actually. I think it, oddly enough, kind of adds to it, because you can play off like the roles of a woman and a man in a relationship in a historical setting, and all what it was like to be in a relationship back in those times. So I really like that. Even usually if the romance in it is bad or forced or not as well developed, I can still look past it, because once again, as long as they bring that historical slant and viewpoint, then I'm 100% okay with it. That's actually really cool in my opinion. Positives of this episode: great action. I was so impressed throughout this whole episode. Every time there was a fight scene, I was engaged in it. Granted, some of the sound effects for it were very loud, but much louder than everything else, the music involved. But other than that, other than those hiccups, great action. Everything that accompanied it was really great. Awesome character designs. I love the princess and the MC guy, and I love the design of most of the prisoners. They look really awesome. I didn't really get to see enough of the other side characters of like the samurai of Tsushima. Either way, really awesome. I even like some of the CG that we saw of the ships. While it looked a little bit clean and too neat, it still looked pretty good. Art direction as well. Really damn good art direction, besides the filter. We'll get into that in a moment. And the historical setting. All those are positives, what I would consider positives of this episode, and generally of the series and what I'm thinking right now. Negatives, screen filter. Remove that. I think I explained earlier in this video why you should remove it, and I still feel the same way about it by the end. Shoddy pacing. This is both something they can't really get around, but they should probably think more wisely going forward of what they want to prioritize, and think about changing things around from the original story to make it fit better, because I can already see some problems with the pacing in this episode of how things were a little bit rushed. I wanted to see more of Otaki, didn't get that. I thought we were going to see more of Otaki, but we didn't get that. Rushed character development for the princess as well. That goes along with the Otaki thing. Just rushed overall for those parts for Otaki and the princess. And, of course, some bad animation here and there that stood out. Other than that, very positive on this series. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. I love historical settings, and I'm willing to give, based off episode 1, this series the benefit of the doubt for a lot of things it kind of did wrong. Other than that, I want to say thank you all for watching this review of episode 1 of Angolmois. I greatly appreciate all the support you give me. If you have not already, if you enjoyed this video and you're like, I like this guy's videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you haven't already, ring that bell button. Make sure to like the video. Put down in the comments what you thought about Angolmois. I'll see you guys later. I appreciate all the support you give me. It means a lot. Bye-bye.